you're looking for. Don't say I ain't never put you on, cause you didn't know that. It's the Shabach show. You know how it goes. If you don't know, now you're gonna know, cause you tune in to the only Shabach show. It's what you came from. Education and entertainment all just for you. It's the Shabach show. Why you stuck on 25? We reporting live from the phone, just to let you know that it's the Shabach show. It's the Shabach show. Say I ain't never put you on, cause you didn't know that. It's the Shabach show. You know how it goes. If you don't know, now you're gonna know, cause you tune in to the only Shabach show. It's what you came from. Education and entertainment all just for you. It's the Shabach show. Why you stuck on 25? We reporting live from the phone, just to let you know that it's the Shabach show. It's the Shabach show. It's the Shabach show. Don't say I ain't never put you on, cause you didn't know that. It's the Shabach show. You know how it goes. If you don't know, now you're gonna know, cause you tune in to the only Shabach show. It's what you came from. Education and entertainment all just for you. It's the Shabach show. Why you stuck on 25? We reporting live from the phone, just to let you know that it's the Shabach show. Say I ain't never put you on, cause you didn't know that. It's the Shabach show. You know how it goes. If you don't know, now you're gonna know, cause you tune in to the only Shabach show. It's what you came from. Education and entertainment all just for you. It's the Shabach show. Why you stuck on 25? We reporting live from the phone, just to let you know that it's the Shabach show. Yes, sir. What's up? You tuned into the D Shabach show from the 404. It is your man D Shabach. How you doing?
leave in the chat. How have you been? How is your week going so far? It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Are you humping? I don't know. Anyway, I'm having a good day on this Wednesday. I feel good with this week so far. It's been very productive. I have gotten back into running. I've gotten back into going to the gym consistently. Hopefully, today will be my second day. I tried to go yesterday. I was exhausted. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I was exhausted. I run 3 miles. So in the morning, somewhere between 10 and 11, I try to run 3 miles. And buddy, oh buddy, whew, it takes a toll on your body. So Monday I went to the ran in the morning, then I went to the gym at night, and the next day I was exhausted. I thought yesterday was exhausting. I woke up today, I felt like I could barely move. So I'm trying to get back into the thick of things, trying to get back into the routine, which I love. You try to think positive about these disciplines that you got to do. You got to be like, you know what? This is what I asked for. This is what I asked God for. I'm glad to have legs to run. I'm glad. Beep, 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 you got. But I got a little quick story time. I was talking to this young lady on text, right? And I hit her up. I saw her. I was like, yo, she cool. She seemed cute, whatever it may be. And things was going cool in a little conversation. It was a matter of just a few hours, right? Just a few hours. Everything was going cool. She was like, oh yeah, I saw one of your videos. She had some critiques on it. We was talking back and forth about that. So then as I'm waiting for her to reply, I look on her page and I'm like, who this man? So now I'm like, listen, I don't want to assume, this could be a father, or uncle, or somebody, but y'all looking mighty close. So I sent it to her. We are having a good conversation. We're joking, we're laughing back and forth in our little text thread. And I sent it to her I said, wait, and I put a laughing emoji. And then she responds, so you decide to stalk my page for what? Whoa. First of all, what do you mean stalk your page? Ma'am, stalking would be if we didn't know each other and I just went down. I didn't stalk your page. I just scrolled a little bit and I saw this picture. And I told her, I'm like, I didn't even scroll that much. I just scrolled. I'm just looking at your pictures, looking at your beauty. And then I see this. So I'm asking you about it. But her response was a yellow flag. I'm like, so instead of you just answering, oh yeah, no, that's my dad, that's my uncle, that's my this, that's my that, you decide to be like, yeah, right? Like she was literally lost for words type vibes. And I'm like, what are we doing here? So then I was like, well, listen, I didn't want to assume. I didn't stalk your page. I just saw this, picture, and I don't know, but I don't know. So I was asking you to give some insight. And she was like, well, well, I date. I'm not ashamed to say that I date or whatever. So, I mean, I don't know what your problem is. So I'm like, yes, we're dating. If you're single, I'm single, we're dating. But number one, I don't post people that I'm going on dates with. I only post my girlfriend. After I done ask whoever I'm dating to be my girlfriend, that's when social media get a post. So I'm like, so then she tried to quote unquote backtrack, right? She was like, are we just talking? I don't know. I don't understand why you trying to address that way. I'm like, ma'am, I came in on flirty vibes. It's giving flirty energy here. Not like, oh, hey, how you doing, man? I'm just wanting to get to know you. You seem like you're, no. It was flirty vibes. So I just found it funny. Here's the funny part. Here was the kicker. She blocked me. So but it was like, I sent the thing. She responded with her little nonsense. I sent another message. She responded back. Before I could respond back to her last message, she blocked. I'm like, what is the world coming to? We just had a great conversation. And the irony is, in the conversation, I was like, yeah, that's how y'all women be. So what? Y'all women, don't box me into y'all women. I'm a lady. I'm different. I'm this. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay. And maybe you feel like I was in the wrong. But I'm like, if I see you colored up with a man on your page and I'm kind of flirting with you and I'm about to ask you, which I told her, I'm like, I was trying to steer this conversation so we can meet up in person. And I'm like, man, I dodged a bullet maybe. I don't know. But I just found that to be interesting. I was like, man, people. Because I don't think it's women. I just think it's people. I think some people are just interesting when it comes to how they do things. But we got a good show today. I think y'all gonna like some of these topics. You know, for my Christian audience, I want to be clear. Listen, I am a Christian. I love Jesus Christ. He's my Lord and Savior. But I love to be critical of Christians and the church, because if we're not critical, it leads to toxicity. It leads to people steering away from God, steering away from Christianity. So if we can have conversations that are going to talk about the tension, going to talk about the issues, then it makes it easier for people to be like, you know what, maybe Christianity is not all so bad. So today's topic is church plus money equals corruption. Church plus money equals corruption. Y'all know me. I love a good video to go along with the things. Let me adjust this little thing over here. Hold on. Just want to make sure. All right, we good. All right, so here's a video that I saw that the topic is going to be coming from.
Take money, especially over a career, from this system and not get eaten by it. No one gets away from it.
What do you mean by that? Nobody gets away from what?
From getting eaten by the machine.
So this is very similar to politics.
It
Come in with
runs-
great intentions and then you're corrupted.
Young man ready to spread the gospel. He's been indoctrinated, I'll use your word, into the system. What's the first thing he's going to do? He's going to tell about Christ and how Christ does save you. And guess what? Hey, Sean, your business, this institution, the corporation might cost, let's go small, $100,000 a month to keep this thing operational. Our church is growing. Now our budget's $200,000. We have about 350 people that show up every Sunday. Well, shoot, Nathan's church down the street just got a better sound stage than us. And he's going to start pulling congregants. So in the show, we call this religious economic theories. And so you're going to need the same sound stage I have. Okay, well, that's going to cost us an extra $150,000. So we're going to request money above and beyond. So now on the third Sunday of that 8-week block, we're going to give a sermon, but then the last 5 minutes, we're going to present why we need this new sound stage. And so your whole presentation of the gospel tilts to protect the institution and the revenues it needs to survive. Every pastor that plays in that game dies to the game. And that's why pastors rightly say pastoring is the hardest job in the world. We all leave demoralized, and you do. But it's not your fault necessarily, but you've been eaten by a machine that we've built on top of Christ. I don't think anybody can take money, especially over a career.
So he is talking about church. I'm sorry, I was looking at myself and it was lagging a little bit. I'm like, hold on, is it frozen? So this young man, he's not a young man. This grown man, he is talking about church and how typically churches may start with a good heart, right? You have pastors, you have leaders, you have a church who wants to start and they really want to actually do some good under the sake of Jesus Christ and etc., right? But what happens is monetary corruption, right? These churches, they have to make money. Now, I'm giving a little recap because I got my own little perspectives, right? So these churches, they have to make money, right? So he was giving some details on how churches, they, have to have a budget. They do this, they do that. But then once other churches around in the neighborhood or in the nation starts growing and developing, now they have to start trying to match with those churches. And now we have to upgrade our sound system. We have to upgrade our video system. We have to upgrade our music. We have to do different things to match and keep up with the church ecosystem, right? So now it becomes less about the heart posture that these people had to initially start the church, and now just about the revenue and how can we keep it and keep more money coming in so we can, grow. Now, churches are I thought about this and I was like, this is kind of good. This is kind of good. Churches are businesses that crash out when you point out that they are a business. Let me say that again. Churches are businesses that crash out when you point out that they are business, right? Imagine going to Chick-fil-A and you're like, oh man, this is a nice little restaurant. This ain't no restaurant. We are Chick-fil-A. We are a Christian chicken selling company, okay? We ain't even a company. We are a Christian chicken selling people, right? You're like, well, y'all a restaurant though. We ain't a restaurant. It's crazy, right? Everywhere else, we call it a business. In church, we can't, right? We just simply cannot call it a business. Why? Here's my perspective, right? And I'm gonna get into this a little bit more. Churches don't want to be perceived as a business. They want to be perceived as a church. that does business, but then it gets convoluted and it gets murky because you can't combine the two without being inauthentic in one area or another. So Charles Metcalf right here, I don't know if y'all can see that. Charles Metcalf, he is one of the I think one of the executive pastors at Transformation Church. I love Transformation Church. I love Mike Todd. Obviously, there's criticism for anybody, things that some people can do better or not do, whatever. So, you know, you are supposed to find churches and Christian communities that best suit you. But Charles Metcalf, he's one of the pastors at Transformation Church alongside Mike Todd, right? And his comment was, LOL, nah, man. Now, I don't know what that means, right? I love Charles. I love his sermons when he preaches and everything, but I don't know what LOL, nah, man, right? Here is what I can assume, that he is saying that this guy is wrong. And if I am to assume correctly, I understand why Charles will lean into saying that this guy is wrong, because Transformation Church grew from a small church in Greenwood or something, Tulsa. I think starting, it was initially like in the 1990s or whatever when they started the church, and then eventually Mike Todd, the one who's the face of it now, he eventually got the church, I think somewhere between 2010 to 2016, right? Somewhere between that's when he got the church. I'm giving context here. So he got the church, and then the church was still yet small at this point. And he has grown the church since about 2018 to now. And it is now a mega church. They bought one of the arenas. Well, it was more of a conference center in Tulsa. And they've grown. They have, so many thousands of people that come on Sunday, and tens of thousands of people who are watching via streaming. Why does this matter? Because Charles has seen the church, Transformation Church, go from something small to something big. He is a part of those boardroom meetings, those conversations, those planning, those logistics of taking the church from a small church to big. So he has a biasness. Mike Todd may have a bias. Philip Mitchell has a bias, which I thought that Philip Mitchell didn't have a bias, about, the mega church or whatever. I thought that he was against it, but he has created a mega church himself, right? Which is kind of part of my point. A lot of these Christians, they get into church or whatever their leadership position is, and then they forget their heart posture because it becomes more of a business, right? So as much as I love Transformation Church, Mike Todd, Charles Metcalf, I don't know them personally and how they operate behind the scenes. So I can't vouch to say that they are one of the churches that are outside of how we publicly see things. And yes, Transformation Church is one of the churches that I've personally seen give away millions of dollars every year. But I'm curious to know what made Charles Metcalf say that. The LOL nah man. Now listen, there's another comment. I don't know if y'all are able to see it. Aha Gazelle. Aha Gazelle is a Christian / positive hip hop artist, right? And he commented a quote, that the guy has said in the video. Your whole presentation of the gospel tilts to protect the institution and the revenue it needs to survive, right? What's the point of this? He is saying, we, instead of just presenting the gospel, which is that Jesus Christ, God sent Jesus Christ down the cross for our sins. That is the gospel, right? So we can have eternal life. I don't know what a lot of times people mean when they say the gospel, but that is the gospel. That's the good news. That's simple, right? So we end up curating a gospel that benefits us financially or physically or mentally, instead of just presenting the gospel for what it is, right? So the guy said, your whole presentation of the gospel tilts to protect the institution and the revenue that it needs to survive. Now listen, I wholeheartedly agree with this, right? I was a part of a church here in Atlanta for a little bit. It was called Hillsong Atlanta. They were a branch church from the original Hillsong in Australia, and there was a very popular church in New York that was a branch church of Hillsong. But when they had planted this church here in Atlanta, the lead pastor made it clear. Hey, at first, the first few services was like, yay, we here for the community. And then he made it clear, hey, they're going to shut us down. Hillsong is going to shut us down if we are not able to be a self-sustaining church in the next 6 months to a year. It was either 6 months to a year, or it was that short amount of time. And the pressure that I'm sure was on him as a pastor, but he also put on us as leaders in different ministries, and he also put on the congregation, was a tad bit unhealthy, right? Now listen, I think that Hillsong, the way that they presented it, the financial part, was a little bit better than other churches. Other churches lean into just simple manipulation, which is, God is doing this, God's doing that, da, 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 da. They did lean into a little bit more of the business to say, hey, it does take money to do this. We're renting this venue, and it takes staff. It takes this, takes that. They were a little transparent, but maybe we should not be creating or investing into a church if we only have 6 months for it to grow. Yes, you make a church here in Atlanta. Yes, Atlanta is now a metropolitan city. But y'all didn't do a lot of work on the back end to make sure that once Hillsong Atlanta came, that there were people and investors who was going to make sure that it sustains, right? And again, this is the business part, right? Now I can go on and on about that. Or let me wrap up that part. They did not continue, right? Now, granted, it was a little murky on how they didn't continue, right? Because during the same time, Hillsong was dealing with certain allegations, and so then the lead pastor of Hillsong Atlanta decided to just change Hillsong Atlanta to his own church, and then that's another story for another day, because I want to stay focused. Here's what I feel like the solution to all of this. There should be transparency about the fact that they are a business. A church is a business. We need to be transparent about that. Yes, it is a church first, yet a business second. And it's an immediate second. There are lights to keep on. There is heat and air to keep on. There's cleaning services, security, and all these other little things that it takes to help a church operate, right? And then you have staff. As much as we would love for people to volunteer their time as a gift unto the Lord, right? You won't be able to get people with the proper experience if you just find volunteers, right? Security, shoot, she's just a little mall cop. She don't know how to do anything, right? Taxes. Well, not taxes. Let's say just the finances. Who got to pay the light bill? Who got to pay the gas bill, the heating bill, right? You need someone who knows and who's good with the money, right? You don't need to, Sister Susan. She gonna be skimming off the top or the bottom. You need someone who, like, this is what they do, right? People will experience burnout and start having resentment towards the church, or the church as a whole, or that specific church, right? And that resentment can also grow towards God when people are not being properly paid. Just like, church is a business and needs money to operate, so do people need money to feed themselves, their family, pay bills, and etc. Even the roles that you think should be very easy to find volunteers, because it seems simple. It takes a lot of work behind the scenes, where sometimes people are having to sacrifice their 9 to 5 just to work unto the Lord. Hallelujah, right? Now, I sort of appreciate Hillsong's approach, like I said, but it still was not the best. Yes, it was sort of better than just manipulating people, but when you're going to be honest with people, have a backup. I don't know. And I'm not going to act like I am an expert in how to run a church and how you should go about it. But I do know the way that the church has been doing it for years is very divisive, and it pushes away a lot of people who are like, I just came to serve the Lord. Now you're telling me I need to give, already I got to give 10%, right? Now I have to give all these extra offerings and donate to this fund and donate to that, when I just wanted to come to a place to praise God. I just wanted to come to a place that was with other believers. But now we got this business aspect to it. This was one of the reasons why when you see how Jesus operated, when he was on earth, I'm not talking about him in heaven. I'm not talking about the spiritual. I'm talking about when Jesus was on earth. Judas was, for lack of words, he was a money business person. There was a particular role for his title, but he was a money business person. And Judas could not understand why Jesus was not taking offerings, why Jesus was not taking money from people, right? People would donate to Jesus food, clothes, shelter, even money, and he would take that. But he did not have an offering. He did not demand for people to give things, right? Even when they did have money, they did not go to hotels, go to inns if they did not need to. They pitched tents outside of the town or wherever they were. Why does this matter? Because maybe if God has called you to start a church, maybe he needs you to start small. Until you have people who will come to you and say, hey, we're willing to invest into your message. But then what happens if those people want to go to another church? What happens if those people die? What happens if those people have an issue with the church because of something totally different? Now those investors that you had are gone. That money is gone. So are you willing to downsize? Are you willing to be transparent? We have to be a little bit more honest when it comes to, hey, the church needs money to operate. How are we going to go about this? Right? Now here's my passion. Again, like I stated, the world needs the church. The world needs Christianity. And other religions, absolutely, sure. I'm not a Christian nationalist. I believe that is a tension that we're supposed to hold. But as far as a Christian who grew up Christian, who grew up in the church, we need this, especially as a black Christian, as a black man. We need places that we are able to go and commune with God in the way that we praise and serve God, right? But how do we do this and keep it thriving and keep it operating? I have been on teams or on staff, in ministries where they're like, hey, we can't do this, that, and the third unless we raise this money, which is good when you do fundraisers. I've been a part of several churches where they've done fundraisers, right? Car wash and you donate. We're going to sell cookies. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're selling shirts. We're selling, yes, I think it's okay to sell certain things. You're doing a fish plate thing, right? Let's get back to that instead of trying to operate with this aesthetic of that we don't need to sell fish plates. We don't need to do all these other things to keep the church going. Here's my last thoughts. People are tired of being manipulated by people and institutions in general. People are already exhausted by the government and people taking their money. People are exhausted of the government using their tax dollars to pay for wars that we don't need to do this and to that. That's in general. And people are exhausted of being burnt out and manipulated by the churches and Christian communities. I'm tired. You are tired. We are tired. And oftentimes we don't realize how tired we are until we remove ourselves or step back, right, from these different churches and from these different institutions. This is why it is important for people to be honest and transparent and say, hey, we need money for this. And if it's not your time, it is not your time. I can't stress that enough. If it is not your time, it is not your time. There are seasons in your life when you're going to get that car that you want. Seasons in your life when you get the apartment that you want. Seasons in your life where you get the house that you want, where you get the clothes that you want. You get the designer stuff that you want. You get the material items that you want. But if you are in a season of just focusing on paying your bills with where you are, focus on that. Can we get back to, you know what, we may just operate this church out of a tent in the park. If it's raining, we in the tent. If it's cold, wear a jacket. If it's nice, we good. If it's hot, bring a fan. We got to get back to not operating in a way that is going to manipulate people into giving money for things that they probably should not be giving money to yet, right? I can go on, and I don't like to seem like I'm just babbling. And so I'm like, you know what? I got 5 more seconds, but I hope you really understand my heart posture. If you're looking at this and you're trying to understand what I'm saying, hopefully you understand that I'm like, hey, people need the church, but we have to present the church differently and a lot better. But let's go on to something a little bit lighter. Let's go to That's Hilarious. If you black, you gonna get this.
Rose. Rose. Oh, see, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it's
Rose.
oh my gosh, ladies. I think I'm gonna get it wrong. No, you can't. Okay, one more time. Rose.
This is harder than you think. Huh?
It's Rose.
It's hard. You. Listen, there's a lot of black conversation happening in the eyes. But I'm about to let my sister down because I have no idea. You're not. Because
All right, here we go.
I hate myself.
No, you just say it. Just say it.
Titanic. Rose.
I love it. Us black people, we are hilarious. I love it with how we could just, right? We just talking all through the eyes. And you really grow up with this when you have a black mom or a black dad and they give you that look. And like it don't matter what you doing, you just feel it. Said you could be looking all the way over here. In fact, you could be all the way turned around, and you just feel some eyes, and you turn and you look and you catch eyes with your parent. Oh my God, you know you need to get yourself together. And then it's also just funny. That is one of the beauties of being around your own community, right? And what I've recognized, there are some black people whose community is not black people. And, you know, I may not agree with it, but if your community is around some other folks, then hey, be in your community. But for me, I was raised in a black church. I was raised with black parents. I was raised with the black experience. I went to this comedy show one time, and I don't know why I did not invite. I know why, but I I went to this comedy show on campus at college, and they had some of the Wildin' Out comedians to come. And, you know, everyone loves, you know, Wildin' Out. At least that's what I thought. So I asked this girl to go with me or whatever. This girl was Hispanic. And I'm thinking, you know, she down with the cause. You know, she know this stuff. No, she didn't. Half of the comedy show, she was just like, what's so funny? I don't get it. What's that mean? I'm like, oh, no. I already was on the fence with dating outside of my race. And when I say dating, I mean like seriously dating. I was already on the fence with that. But then she just solidified it. I'm like, there's too many things that I cannot explain to you in my black experience. And if you don't experience this black experience, then you don't get it, right? It's so many things that I'm not going to try to explain to you, right? Now, here's the thing. I'm not one of those black people that don't want to explain to white people certain things that we got going on. As long as the white person is being respectful, or any other ethnicity, white, Hispanic, whatever. As long as you're being respectful with how you're asking and your curiosity, then it's fine. But listen, the person who I'm going to marry, the person who I'm dating seriously, the person I'm being in a relationship with, you got to be able to know certain things, right? And even when it comes to other black people, like I said, if you didn't grow up in black communities, then we probably ain't gonna gel. And other communities are part of the diaspora, Africans and Caribbeans. There are some who very much grew up around black people and in black culture. My man. But there's a lot of them who did not, right? So they have a lot of prejudice, and that's another topic for another day. I'm probably gonna have some people part of the diaspora to be on the show to have a lovely conversation. But there's some people in the diaspora who don't understand the African American black experience, and that's okay. It just ain't for me. It just ain't for me. All right. But let's move on. Our commentary for the day is, why do you want a relationship? No, seriously. Why do you want a relationship? No, on God. Why do you want a relationship? Let's see what this lady has to say.
Are scary and evil, and I want to be in a relationship, but I don't know if I'm sweating it that much when I realize that most men are evil.
No, funny, I'm gonna be so serious because
So this creator is responding to I guess another creator who said men are evil, and she does not know how to hold that tension because she wants to be in a relationship, but every day she feels like she realized that men are evil.
women genuinely have this sentiment, especially women like yourself that have never been in relationships before. And I think what you actually have right now is a fear of missing out. You don't actually have a desire to be in a relationship with a man. You know, those are two separate things. Wanting a relationship and wanting a man are not necessarily the same thing. Because out of a relationship, there are things that you get. You get empathy, you get companionship, you get love, you get a sense of peace, comfort, support. You want those things, but you don't necessarily want a man. Because
oh shoot, I'm so sorry guys.
you think men are evil, and why would you want something evil? The good thing is, all of those things that you get out of a romantic relationship, you can have from other relationships, so you can get those there. But until you realize, why do you want a man? What do you think a man brings to the table that you would actually appreciate? That's a genuine question. And when you all are dating, you can ask the other person that question. Even women, ask men, not why do you want to be in a relationship? Ask them, why do you want to be with a woman? What do you think a woman brings to the table that is so wonderful that you want that? And honestly, if they don't have an answer, that is a sign. That is a sign that this person wants all of the benefits of being in a relationship, but they might not actually want you, whatever you bring. That's a red flag.
Yeah. So first of all, I loved how this content creator, she didn't try to berate the woman. She didn't try to insult her. She didn't try to come after the lady, but she gave her genuine heart posture, you know, through advice to this woman and to men, honestly, when dating. And this is how it should be on the internet. I really want to encourage us to be more kind to each other. Understand the nuance that is behind what someone is saying. Because here's the thing. Even if someone makes a whole 10-minute video on TikTok or on YouTube, even if someone makes a whole hour video on YouTube, that is still not enough for you to understand the nuance of who and how they are, right? So we should lead with grace and try to understand people before we lead to just say, you're wrong, I'm right, you know? But the content creator who reacted to the original content creator, she has a very true and valid point. A lot of men and women have not learned why they want to be in relationships in the first place. We oftentimes are sold this dream since we are little babies from Disney movies and shows, Valentine's Day, and everything else that we see in real life and the media. But why do why do you specifically want to be in a relationship? And why do you specifically want to be in a relationship with the gender that you're interested in, right? So 2 questions. Why do you want to be in a relationship? And why do you want to be in a relationship with that gender? Right now, you may say, well, because I don't like the other gender. Then you don't understand what is being asked. What is it about women? What is it about men that do it for you, right? For me, because I can only speak for me. I cannot speak for nobody else. I can only speak for me. And you should only be answering this question for yourself, not for anybody else, not based upon someone else's experience, but for you. Which is one of the issues that we have nowadays, right? Everyone believes that they know why someone does or don't do something. But for me, I grew up in an unstable mother and father household. Now, my parents may be looking at this video and they're like, oh, here he go. See, right? But listen, I got to tell my truth. I grew up in an unstable mother and father household. My parents would go back and forth between separated and getting back together since before I was 1 year old. Right? And they officially got divorced not too long after I turned 18, but they were separated for years before that. So I grew up seeing moments that I wanted to have, right? Moments when my parents were happy with each other and getting along, when we all were one big happy family. But there were a lot of days that was miserable, not happy. It was not fun. But during the same time, I was also introduced by my parents and by the community, by life, to couples who were having a happy and successful marriage, right? They have moments that was not the best, but their everyday life for the most part was happy and enjoyable. And, honestly, one of my set of godparents were actually one of the biggest inspirations and goals for what, an example of what a successful and happy relationship and marriage looks like. I met them when I was about 10 years old, and shortly thereafter, they became my godparents. And through them and through others, other people that was in my life, I saw the importance of family. Even through my parents, I saw the importance of a man and a woman having each other's back through thick and thin. The importance of a man and woman having each other's back through the happy and sad. A man and woman who is supporting each other financially, spiritually, emotionally, and even physically, right? A man and woman who is able to come together and be the closest person to each other and make the other feel loved and feel seen. And oftentimes, this is the reason why the closest people to you can often hurt you the most. You see, I thought of this a few months ago. I guess a little bit more transparently. Was in a relationship on and off for 7 years, and then the partner decided the lady, the girl, decided that it was best for us to end things. So since January, I've been doing a lot of reflection. And I thought about this, that I want to be loved and feel love. I want to be loved and feel loved. Meaning, I want someone to love me, right? But I also want to experience what it feels like to love someone and they love you. And the atmosphere, the vibe, and the journey that creates, right? A lot of times people want to just be loved, right? But I enjoy loving on someone, right? Not just someone in general, but the right person, right? And I enjoy what it feels when you are in their presence of someone who genuinely loves you. You're not questioning and wondering. You're not having to overthink about how you're being and how you're doing because they genuinely love you. And I realize I want this. And that is my reason. What is yours? What is your reason for wanting to be in a relationship with women? Do you just want consistent sex? Because truth and matter, fellas, yeah, unless she has a very high sex drive, you ain't going to have consistent sex in a relationship. Then, is it that you just want someone to do stuff for you? My brother, do you not know how to cook? Do you not know how to clean? Do you not know how to take care of yourself? Things that you should be doing before you even are in a relationship. Things that you should be doing for yourself. All right? Do you just want a maid? I don't know. What are other stereotypical reasons? You have to ask yourself, why do you want a woman? Do you just want a trophy? Do you just want someone to look good on your shoulder when you go out, when you out with people or whatever? What's up, Miss Shy Poo? Do you want someone who's just going to look good, or do you want someone who actually is good, right? Ladies, why do you want a man? Do you want a man who's just going to pay for things, right? You don't want to pay for I don't know, for the bags that you want. You don't want to pay for the trips that you want. You don't want to pay for the dinners and whatever, right? Are you looking for someone who's just going to be your sugar daddy? Who's going to be your sponsor, right? Are you just looking for someone who's going to do the hard labor that you don't want to do around your house, right? Are you looking for, I appreciate the roses. Are you looking for someone who is going to do the things that you don't want to do, right? Are you, I don't know, what other reasons why women sometimes get into relationships? We have to ask ourselves, are we just wanting the benefits, the cherry on top from a relationship, or do we actually want the relationship? Because when you actually want the relationship itself, when you want the partnership, then that is when you're willing to do the work. That is when you're willing to not see all women and all men as evil. When you actually want the relationship is when you start being mindful and cognitive and cautious with who you get into a relationship with in the first place. Right? A lot of times it's not that men are bad or women are bad. It's just that you're picking bad men and bad women. They are out here and they exist. Now, what are you going to do with that? Right? Because I want a relationship that is healthy, that is happy, that is a union, that is actually able to lead to marriage and lead to her and I being mother and father to kids that we're going to raise and hopefully not traumatize, right? But you can't get there if you don't focus on why you want it in the first place. You see so much discourse, and I'll talk about this in another episode. You see so much discourse around people who are saying, why do you really want kids? You just want a legacy? You just want people to take care of you when you get older? For me, first of all, like, having kids is a must, right? We are on earth and we are beings who want to reproduce, right? So let's get that out the picture, right? But I love the idea of raising a young man, raising a young woman to be a healthy citizen who's able to contribute to society, right? A mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, yes, physically healthy, right? And they are able to have a life that they feel good with, right? Because they had parents who raised them well and who took into consideration what they wanted and their desires, right? That's what I want. And of course, there's benefits to having someone to take care of you as you get old. Of course, there's benefits to having someone who can keep your name alive and keep your legacy alive. But those are the cherry on top. So you got to ask yourself, why do you want a relationship? Right? I know my reasons. And a lot of times you can't answer these reasons only by yourself. You may need a therapist. You may need a therapist to help you answer the question on why you want to be in a relationship. Because a therapist will help you understand your traumas, your triggers. A therapist will help you understand what makes you happy, what you really like, what you really love. Because they are supposed to be there. They, first of all, hopefully they're psychologically trained. You know what I'm trying to say. And hopefully they are unbiased and they're able to help guide you on this journey of finding love if that is what you truly want. Because like the lady said in the video, some of us are just bored. Some people just want someone to like ask yourself. And when you have a good answer, push it out to some people, get some feedback, and then maybe you'll be ready to get into a relationship. But let's move on to the next topic. The trending topics. So I said before, I like to use the trending topics where, yes, if there's something in pop culture that may reflect on, we may talk about, but I want to use these trending topics as a way to inform people. Because I know I sometimes look at different podcasts and then they inform me on something that I didn't know that didn't come across my algorithm or my feed. So the first thing, there is a ban on routers. What does that mean? Let's find out.
Administration has just made the FCC ban all foreign-made routers. Right now, there's only one company that actually makes routers in the United States, and that is SpaceX. And it's kind of crazy because SpaceX also announced that they might be IPOing as soon as next month. So that means that this Starlink Gen 3 router is the only router that's going to be able to be purchased in America going forward. I'm not sure how that's going to work out with all the internet service providers. So if you have Xfinity or Google Fiber or Verizon or any other type of company that you get internet service from that uses any type of China-made routers, you won't be able to have those installed in your house anymore. The good news is if you already have a router, you're going to be grandfathered in. I don't think this will be the last time that we see companies banned over security concerns. First, we saw Huawei banned years ago. Then they banned DJI at the end of 2025. And now they're banning all routers that aren't manufactured in the US. What do you think is going to be banned next? And what do you think about this policy? It's just going to make a lot of things crazy.
So she had a lot of good points, right? Huawei is a phone company or a technology company that is overseas in China. But they have been doing a lot of innovative things with their technology and more specifically with phones. They're the first one to come out with a trifold phone before Samsung did, right? And it not just like they beat it to the race or whatever, like they've been had it years ago. We just got the first trifold phone here in America, right? So they banned Huawei. They have banned all of the Chinese electric cars that are 10 times better than Tesla and all the other electric cars, and 10 times cheaper than Teslas and all the other electric cars, right? And people have been going from America and going to China to test drive the cars. Now, granted, people have wanted to, hey, I will go over there, buy the car, ship it to America, but it's even illegal to do that, right? What's the point? She also said DJI, which is a camera-based technology system, right? So they make a lot of technology around cameras, and they banned them, right? They were very much known for their drones and etc. Why does this matter? You feel like, hey, Shabach, I don't know how this really affects me. Well, first of all, what this topic is about is the routers that are banned, right? So typically with a router is how you receive internet in your home, in your workspace, wherever you're at. You could upgrade and change and do different things with your router based upon your needs. Now, if you don't already have the router that you like, the only routers that you can buy brand new is through SpaceX, through Elon. So if you don't want to financially support Elon, but you need a new router, where are you left to do, right? Why does it matter with DJI and with Huawei and the electric vehicles? Is because there's technology that's being made overseas that should be able to be transported here. We transport everything else, right? Like this whole idea of American made is false, right? We transport so many things, and I don't think we export that much. We do export things, but we import a lot. That's why Trump was trying to put the tariffs and all these other bullcrap stuff, right? If we start creating a monopoly on everything, what happens? Let's move on to the next trending topic.
So millions of people have left ChatGPT and have moved over to Claude, and that's because the Pentagon said to ChatGPT, we need access to all your information and data, and we need to use you and have like unlimited access to you. And ChatGPT, in a nutshell, kind of said, okay. And then the the president of ChatGPT also donated $25 million to Mega and then said yes right after that. While the CEO of Claude said, absolutely not. You can't just have free reign of our tool. We're not going to do that, Pentagon. And so people were like, well, you donated all this money to the Trump, pockets, and you're saying yes to the Pentagon. We're leaving you on that moral ground, and we're coming over to Claude, where Claude has made this stance. And so it really did a lot of damage to ChatGPT. Yeah. So people pay attention not just to the tool that they're using, but where does that tool stand politically? Where does that tool stand when it comes to privacy, ethics? And, this showed us that people are really paying attention, and they're paying attention to where the money is going as well. You don't just donate $25 million and people say, well, okay, that probably didn't mean anything. No, it meant something. And so we see a lot of people move. I'm telling everybody.
Did it make you move?
Well, as a trainer, I can't move, but because I need to teach, all platforms, but I will tell you that I'm using Claude now over ChatGPT when it comes to everyday use. So
basically, this woman is saying that ChatGPT has donated $25 million. That's a lot of money. $1 million is a lot of money, but 25, man, that's a lot of money. So they donated all this money to MAGA, right? If you don't understand too much about politics, you should understand some of the basic principles. There are people who donate to things when they want things to go their way, right? They also call this lobbying, right? But basically it's a bargain, right? It's like, hey, I'm basically paying for you to vote this way. I'm basically paying for you to make this legal or to make this illegal, right? So the reason why it was so corrupt for Elon and Trump to partner up and everything is because Elon wants to have a monopoly on so many things in technology-wise in America, right? So ChatGPT, I guess, decided to give in, and maybe they didn't give in. Maybe that was always their stance. Maybe there always were. Maybe ChatGPT company was always a pro-Trump, pro-MAGA company, right? But here's what I be trying to tell people. Politics, and like I was saying earlier with church, sadly, churches have become this way, where people make stances based upon the green, right? They don't typically make stances based upon race. They don't typically make stances based upon social justice issues. They don't typically make stances upon religion. They make it upon money. Money talks, right? So why does this matter, guys? Are we going to just sit around, or are we going to do something about this, right? You have the biggest person that you can vote for to make a difference, right? Which a lot of y'all voted for Orange Man, right? And then you have, on the smaller level, people that you can vote for in your local legislations, right? Who is in Capitol? Who are your congressmen, right? These are people that we should be paying attention to in your own county, right? Because when certain laws get passed and it's on a federal level, it then becomes up to the state, every state, to make their own decision. So for instance, the Roe v. Wade stuff, right? That was done on a federal level. Every state has the choice to do whatever they want, on the state level. But if you're voting in governors and mayors and congressmen who don't align with your policies, then what do you think is going to happen? If you think that voting is just, it doesn't matter, you're voting, your lack of vote is voting in people that you may not agree with, right? This is why it's important to vote regardless. And I don't understand why people think opting out of voting is a protest. You're not doing anything. Someone is going to win. The only way how that will work is if 100% of everybody does not vote. Do y'all need to see Squid Games? Some of y'all need to see Squid Games and see how, yes, the same level between 100, 300 people, whatever was in Squid Games, is the same way that it works in America. You may say, hey, if all the black people don't vote, that is actually going to do more damage. If all black people decide to protest to not vote, then who do you think is... This is what I'm saying, man. Sometimes we have to be... We may have a good heart posture, but we really got to flesh it out, right? I really want to go more on about the voting thing. I don't want to stress it anymore. But my point is, ChatGPT is a company that is taking your data, right? So the Pentagon now has access to whatever you decide to put into ChatGPT. And why is this important? Because just as much as we joke about the FBI is watching you, that's what they're trying to get. They're slowly but surely trying to make America a surveillance state, right? What does that mean? All of the Ring cameras, all the cameras on your phones, all the GPS devices, the tracking devices, all of these things the government want access to. So when people opt into this, the government has access to it. So how do you opt into it as an individual citizen? By signing up for companies who have opted into it as a big corporation, right? So now when you feel like, oh my gosh, my phone is listening to me, no, that's called advertisers. That's called businesses. Google is now going through a lawsuit because they were selling a lot of Google's data to companies, right? To advertisers, right? So all I'm trying to say, guys, it is that deep. And a lot of y'all be like, it ain't that deep. It ain't that deep. That is sometimes y'all's anxiety talking. And I get it. Who wants to think about how corrupt every single part of life is? Like I said, church to politics. It is corrupt. But ignoring it is not going to make it go away, right? Even this whole idea of, oh, I'm going to move to another country. Where? Most other countries are worse politically than where we are. There are some countries that are really good, but do you align with some of their other things? Is this country really good politically, but they actually don't like your race or your gender or whatever it may be? So all I'm saying, guys, is that we have some work to do. The big companies and corporations, they're doing their job, which is to make money. But what is our job? Our job is to push back on things that is not good for humanity. It's not good for 2026 or 3026. You know what I'm trying to say. But let's move on to a moment of inspiration. I saw this video and I think it was pretty good. Let's see what it says.
Kid, the running scene in Forrest Gump I thought was really funny. Forrest starts running one day and doesn't stop for 3 years. I thought it's just another weird thing that Forrest does.
Hold on, wait. Forrest Gump was running for 3 years? I thought that was months. I haven't seen the movie in years now, so I'm sure they said it in the movie. But good Lord, 3 years?
But now, it's actually the saddest scene in the entire movie. Forrest isn't running to accomplish something. He runs because he doesn't know what else to do. His mom has just died, Jenny has left again, Bubba is gone, and Forrest is alone with nothing but grief. So he runs. There's no plan. He just keeps moving because it feels better than standing still. And you know what? I get that now. That is what grief feels like. You don't know how to process it. So you stay busy. Anything to not sit alone with the pain. And people start following him because they think that he's running for some cause. And when Forrest stops and says that he's tired and he wants to go home, they're devastated. They ask what they're supposed to do, but Forrest just walks away. Because he was never running for them. He was running for himself. And that's honest. Sometimes the things we do to cope aren't about other people. They are about surviving. The movie doesn't make it inspirational. Forrest isn't transformed. He's just ready to stop. He goes home and waits. And it leads to him finally seeing Jenny again, and now his son. See, as a kid, I thought Forrest was just being weird. But as an adult, I realized he's trying to survive. And that is honestly way more relatable. Because the running scene isn't about achievement, it's about endurance. It's about moving through grief, not around it.
My mom always said, you got to put the past behind you before you can move on. And I think that's what my running was all about.
When I was a kid,
Wow. I hope you got something from that. I got 2 minutes to fill up to try to give something. I don't want to say nothing. Like, can we just sit in that for a second? Because I have been dealing with grief of all sorts and all types within the past 5 years. Since 2020, I had my grandfather, then my grandmother, then my other grandmother, then my god sister, then my dad's godfather, which was like a grandfather to me, then my uncle, biological uncle actually, and then even recently my grandmother's first cousin, and there's probably a few other people who've died. Before that, in 2017, Bishop Eddie L. Long, he died. And regardless of how you may feel about certain things, he made a very big and good impact on a lot of people. And there were other people in my life. There was a more of like a spiritual uncle, one of my dad's friends. He died. I think that was like 2016. I'm trying to think. There's probably a few. Another one of my dad's friends who was like an uncle to me. I didn't really get that close to him, but every time we would go to South Carolina, we'd probably see him, and it was just good vibes and good spirits. He died somewhere between 2016 and 2018. I want to say 2018. I want to say he died in 2018. Why am I saying all this? These were only deaths. These were just deaths that I've experienced within the past 5 years and a little more, right? Then dealing with the deaths of relationships. Like I said, previous relationship I was in that ended at the top of the year. Friendships that falling out. You know, some friendships where you had to mutually say, hey, it's best for us not to be friends, and other friendships where it didn't end well. You deal with a lot of grief, and you have to keep going. Contracts that I lost that was supposed to be secured for at least a year, right? But then they just like, no, right? So many different grief. And it has been so heavy for me because you have to keep working. You have to keep feeding yourself. You have to keep doing whatever other things that you got to do. but it's heavy to do it, right? And so what Forrest Gump was showing here is that, hey, sometimes you got to do whatever it takes to kind of mentally push past it and then process, and then you can move on, right? So I ain't got no other inspiration for you. The guy who edited the video and all this, he did the inspiration. So hopefully y'all received something from this episode. There's a lot to take away. Let me see if I can get this to go away. Let's just do it like that. All right, boom. There's a lot to take away. So I hope that y'all are looking at these episodes and really enjoying it and feeling like you're receiving something from it. Whether it's the clips that you're watching or whether it is the full episode. I just want to share what I feel like is good. I just want to share my community. Love y'all. Peace. Do the work. Do the work.